beautiful people. What it do, Sky Squad? Welcome and welcome back. And I am finally doing my 7th year lock update. Better late than never. I'm actually going to retwist my hair at the same time. So anyways, I'm going to start this out by just letting you know how I started my journey. So if you already know that, make sure to use the timestamps, skip ahead. But I'm just going to catch you up to speed, especially if you haven't watched my lock journey from the very beginning. I documented my lock journey like weekly to bi-weekly, bi-monthly in the very beginning. So if you want to see exactly how my locks looked at that time, maybe if you want to, have a buddy to go along with you in your lock journey, make sure you check those out. I have that in my lock journey playlist, I believe. So I started my lock journey 7 years ago on July 27th, I believe, and that makes my locks a Leo. I went to a loctician that actually did a couple of people's locks that I had went to college with. I got to see a little bit of their lock journey, and so she had locks as well. I felt comfortable going to her. I felt like she knows. She knows. She knows firsthand, and she has been doing it for a long time. I want to say probably by this point she has done locks for 15 years. So she got skills, okay? So yeah, I went to her. I didn't really feel confident in starting my locks myself. Back at that time, YouTube had tons of videos. When I say tons, I mean there's people starting to make lock videos, but still everyone's just showing like what they're doing. Almost felt like no rhyme or reason. You had a couple that gave rationales of why this, why that, and some information, but it's not nearly as much information out there as it is today back then. So there you go. I did not feel comfortable starting it myself, so I went to her, and she maintained my locks for the first couple of months, probably at least 6, 7, 8 months of my lock journey. And then after that, I took over. I felt confident because they were starting to lock up. I wasn't too worried about my comb coils coming completely undone. So I felt better about taking entire care of my locks from that point forward. So in the beginning, I definitely made mistakes. I definitely, I think 3 weeks in, I tried to wash my locks with the whole Design Essentials line, and it was just too much at one time, and blah, blah, blah. So if you want to see the mistakes I made, make sure you check that out. But yeah, so that's pretty much how I started. Did comb coils. They did like brick layered patterning and parting system. And I didn't want my locks too big or too thick at that time. I think I just wasn't really, like, I did my research, but I still don't think I fully knew everything that I needed to know beforehand. And the one thing that did happen is she did ask me kind of like off the cuff was, did I want bangs? And I probably should have asked more questions about this. Like, does it really matter? Like, what does that mean? Because I said yes to bangs because I wore bangs all the time, usually. Before I was trying to cover my forehead and everything. With locks, it does not matter, but when I said yes, it does change how your hair is parted. So the top and the front of my hair is parted differently than the rest of my head. So I don't really have regrets, but that's one thing I wish I kind of said no to, because now it's just not equal on both sides. And because of the parting, it's not quite right to me. And it doesn't really matter if I had a dedicated part to have bangs. It just doesn't really matter. You can wear bangs and you can pin your locks to whatever side you want to. It doesn't matter. So anyways, so that's pretty much how that started. And after I started taking care of my locks myself, I basically started making my own hair care products. You guys know the Resilient Lotus if you don't know. And that was pretty much that. I started reading the ingredients on the back of products. I'm like, bro, what is this? Some things was like cancer causing or known to like possibly cause cancer, allegedly. And I just like, what? I just didn't want to deal with all that. So I felt like I had natural hair. I should be using natural products, yada, yada, woo. I did some research online. Started making my rosé water. Started making my Flex on Fleek. And my hair loved it. And a lot of your guys' hair loved it too. So anyways, now that is pretty much how I started my lock journey. A loctician did it, took care of it for months, and then I took over, been taking over ever since. And I visited the loctician again a couple of years ago, 2 years ago. And it was really nice. And that retwist was banging. So yeah. So let's get into what's been happening this past year. I'm going to talk about a couple of key topics, kind of key themes that's happened. One of it, loose hairs, okay? I'm going to show you that now because I'm actually going to start retwisting my hair, and I'll show you guys what I'm using. But these are my locks, and okay. So these are my locks, and basically I'm still battling with loose hairs. You know, lint is a menace. You guys have seen my video on that, but I wanted to kind of retouch on that and kind of what's been helping me with that. And then soft spots are back again. What's going on with that? Those are like the main themes here. And then I also want to share like what products I've been using mostly for the last year of my lock journey, because I've recently decided to switch it up the last couple of months, and I'm really liking the new products I'm using. So let me share with you guys what I have been using previously before I show you what I'm using now. Basically with these loose hairs, as you guys know, in the front, I've always had like a different hair texture up there. Has always been kind of like my place of concern, my problem area. But really, I'm just concerned about it because I have a lot of soft hair in the very front. Now, I'm not one of those people who likes to lay my edges or have swirls in my edges. So for that reason, like if I did, that would be, I would use those hairs for that purpose, right? I feel like that's suitable. I'm just not into that. I don't think I can do that, and I don't want to do that. I don't think I'm used to seeing myself like that, and I'm not going to keep doing that every day. So, and that's just not how my locks were started, okay? So, as you guys know, it's no secret, I really did not want to go without a retwist because of that. I felt like if I skip a retwist, then my loose hairs don't have the opportunity to, you know, get locked in or grow and stabilize the lock. But in reality, you know, locksmithing or wrapping the hair around the locks, you know, those solutions never really solved my loose hair problem, or the loose, they're really not a problem. It's just something I have to deal with in this area, and I don't have to deal with really too much anywhere else. I might have some loose hairs here and there, but I'm not really worried about them. That, like, I can incorporate them back into the lock easily, and the foundation of my lock is not compromised. That's why I worry about them. That's why it's like a problem. But those methods aren't really helping reintroduce those loose hairs. It's just like another retwisting method, but not particularly useful for loose hairs. So I have started back crocheting. And I don't crochet often. I think, I don't know the last time I crocheted, actually, maybe a couple months ago. But in these two front areas, it's kind of hard to see. I have like a big pocket of just loose hair, and it just will not do what I need it to do. I have some like that in the back, almost in the same exact areas, like right here and right in the back, that are just like that. It just has really soft hair in those areas, and it doesn't want to get on the good fit. So I am incorporating crochet in my locks more consistently, not every single month or anything like that, but not go so long without crocheting and reintroducing those loose hairs back in. A little note about crocheting for me, it has been a little difficult because my locks aren't super thick. Like, my locks are, I wouldn't call them micro, but I feel like if you got them any smaller, they might be micro if you got them any smaller than this, because most lock jewelry, for kind of frame of reference, do not fit my locks. My locks are too small for them usually, and that's just kind of what it is. So I have to do other means to embellish my locks. But I feel like sometimes crocheting small locks is a bit of a obstacle. Like, it's a little different than what you see on, you know, Instagram and TikTok. I feel like I hardly ever see locks my size being crocheted. I'm not really too sure what that's about. But anywho, so that's pretty much that. Crocheting seems to be the answer, and because of that, I've been able to go 3 months without a retwist. So that's a big accomplishment for me, because I usually do not wash without a retwist. For the past year, lock year though, it has been more consistent. It has been more back to back of like every time I wash, I retwist per usual. I haven't really skipped a month, but pretty much after my 7th year of having locks, once I crocheted, I started to feel a little bit more comfortable having thicker roots, and I actually really like it. So the next thing, it is Lint, okay, people? Lint, 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 okay? So just a month after my 7th Loc birthday, I went to a concert, went to a hotel. You have all these white fluorescent lights, and I hadn't dyed my hair in like the year prior. I dyed my hair. I haven't dyed my hair in a year, and either A, I could see previous lint spots, or B, I have more lint spots, or C, all the above. But the ends especially were just not looking good. It was not looking nice. It was not looking well kept. It was not looking clean. It was not looking put together. It looked gross. It looked gross to me. And I hate when locks look gross. Every time I see locks that look gross, I'm like, why? Like, it doesn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to dye your locks, you know, do it safely and also keep up with it, right? So that was my signal. I need to keep up with it. It didn't look that bad because I'm not, you know, dyeing my locks a lighter color. I'm just doing like a little semi-permanent tint over it. I've had to become even more intentional with covering my locks, you know, especially when you have longer locks. You know, I used to think, and I have to keep reminding myself this like year after year, just because my locks are matured and because my locks have made it doesn't mean I don't have different things to be mindful of. So my locks are on this clothing right now, and it rubs. It rubs on this clothing. It picks up lint. It picks up fur balls. It picks up whatever, okay? So I have to be mindful of that. So most times I have my hair up off my shoulders. I have it wrapped up in a satin scarf or something like that. I'm being much more intentional, and not just when I go to bed, but even mindful of the clothes I'm wearing. I went to my second godson's baby shower, and I had like a newish black and white sweater. I had a fresh retwist too. Like, I just did my retwist, and my hair was just rubbing. And before I left the party, I realized not only is like my sweater kind of like jankied up, you know what I mean? Like, it's the piling of it. I have tiny little lint balls all up and through my locks. I'm like, oh, great. So that's what I mean. You know, yes, long locks are a blessing. I think everyone wants to get to that point where their locks are long. But when you got them on cotton, right, you better be good at brushing your locks. But in reality, I just rather prevent lint from even being attached anyway. So needless to say, almost a year after I did the semi-permanent hair dye, I dyed my hair again, and I actually used less product, and it was a lot less messier and a lot easier this time. I've adjusted a couple of things I did this time around versus the very first time, because every time I feel like I just need to get my locks together, I just did a black semi-permanent dye job, and it was good. So since my hair is already black, I don't use any developer or none of that. I just slather the darker on before my scheduled wash time or whatever, and just kind of go with that. And this was black velvet, so I did this about 4 months ago. It still looks good on camera, so I'm not mad at that. And I feel like it's very inexpensive to do it that way, so I'll probably just dye my locks every 6 months, or at least every year for sure, because it's kind of hard to tell like when does it kind of fade away until you really take a look at it. Because I'm not really in my hair like that anymore. You know, I just do what I need to do and go on about my business, versus when I first started my loc journey, I was always in the mirror, always looking, always investigating. And there has to be like a fine middle between that, to where you still know what's going on with your locks, but you're not obsessed with them. Let's talk about these soft spots real quick, okay? And then we'll get to the good stuff, you know, don't worry. But these soft spots, you've heard me talk about them before, but basically they are happening towards the ends of my locks. They are usually happening around like the oldest parts of my locks, right? So if I had my locks for 7 years, the oldest parts are the ends here, who have been with me through it all, seen it all, done it all. And it's just a patch of loose hair in between a locked in and unlocked in. It's just loose hair. So this past year I didn't cut any of those off. I have been known to kind of like trim them, not an overall trim, but like if there's any stragglers, they bother me. So it was very hard for me to not cut them immediately when it happened. But I've been kind of letting them do their own thing. I've embellished a couple of them, so you know, it doesn't bother me as bad, but I think I'm going to cut them now. It's just, there's just no point in holding on to it. I also stopped cutting them because I didn't want some of my locks to be so uneven, but I think I'm just going to have to go in and do an overall even trim because I love how long my locks are. Like, don't get me wrong, I love how long my locks are, but you know, maybe I'll cut them here, right? Like, it's not horrible. It's like not that big of a deal, right? Just to kind of get it all more even. Anyways, that's pretty much it. I have seen some people like crochet their soft spots so they don't have to like lose any length. And I think I successfully done that one time. But again, it's like, for me and locks my size, I have like less surface area to work with. So I don't know. I was successful one time, but it really wasn't worth me doing it for some of these others, so whatever. So yeah, so we're gonna get into this retwist, but I will say what are some of the highlights of this 7-year lock update. You know, I went through like 3 of my problem areas or whatever, but we will get into some of the highlights. So let's go ahead and get this retwist going though.